So first up is orthographic snapping. Orthographic snapping is this little perpendicular icon at the bottom of your screen. You can also activate it by F8. So what this does is, if you have a geometry, let's say I have a rectangle and I want to move it, what orthographic snapping does is it locks your axis to either X or Y, so you can move in a straight line. If I switch it off, let's say I say F8 and my orthographic snapping has been off, now I can freely move it anywhere. So if you have to move it if you want to move it randomly anywhere, you can just off the orthographic snapping, or you can have your orthographic snapping on, and now you see that I can move it in a straight line. Okay, that's orthographic snapping. This comes in very handy when we have to move in a straight line where we have a specific direction, we have a specific distance. This comes in very handy. The next is your O-snap or snapping, object snapping. It's this little square icon at the bottom of your screen. You can toggle this by using F3. Now, object snapping has a lot of subdivisions. So what it is, let's say endpoint. If I have my endpoint on, so let's say that I have a line and I want to make another geometry that is starting from either of the endpoints of the line. So what I'll do is I'll go to my object snap. I'll make sure that my endpoint has been selected. And now if I want to draw a line, it's going to tell me where to start. So it has snapped to my endpoints. That's object snapping. Now I know that this line is exactly starting at the very end of this line, and it's a continuous. So this is object snapping with endpoints. The next is object snapping midpoint. This will give me the midpoint. This will snap the line to my midpoint, and then I can draw a geometry. This works with also, like if I have multiple geometries and I want to draw a line right at the center of this line and I don't know where. So what I have to do is I need to just hover over the line and it will snap to the midpoint. And now I know that my line has started from exactly the midpoint of the rectangle. We have the center. The center is where I have a circle. And now I want to draw a circle inside this circle, starting from the center of the circle. So I'll make sure that my center snap is on. And now if I hover if I say I want to draw a circle, just a second. It's not snapping. Just a second. Center snapping is where it will give you where it will snap to the center of the geometry. Now I can draw from the center. It will always show me the center. This is geometric snapping. Now it's showing me this is actually a center of this rectangle. So that is geometric snapping. And now I know that my circle has started exactly from the center of this rectangle. Let's say I have a weird shape. I'll just drop my ortho. Say I have something like this. And now I want to draw a circle in the center. Now, since my object in my object snap, my geometric center has been on. And now I want to draw a circle. Oh, I had to make it a polyline. And now if I want to draw a circle or a rectangle, it will give me the center of this irregular object. That is geometric center. So that geometric center is based on all the average dimensions of this line of the geometry, and it will give me an exact geometric center. So for geometric center, it's important that I have a closed geometry. Since here I had a segmented geometry, it couldn't calculate the center because it was treating it as an individual geometry and not a closed geometry. The next is the nodes. So nodes is basically if the endpoints or the nodes, like all the points on the geometry are my nodes. So it will give me the nearest snapping for that. Like it's giving me here. The next one is quadrant. So quadrant is basically if you have a circle, you know that we have 4 quadrants. It will snap to my 4 quadrants. And then I can make a geometry from that. Then we have extensions. We'll not get into that. Intersections. Intersection is where 2 geometries are meeting. And I want to draw a geometry that is on the intersection points. So if I want to draw L, it will, if I hover over this, it will select my intersection points. And now I can draw from the intersections. Then we have perpendicular. Perpendicular is also very important because this is going to give you where the lines are going to meet perpendicularly. So let's say that I have this object and I want to make a perpendicular. It's going to I want to make a perpendicular line to this. It's going to show me where exactly it's going to meet at 90 degrees. So it will snap to the exact 90 degrees to this line. That's perpendicular snap. We have tangents. Now tangent is where I have a line and now I want the point where this line is going to meet this circle. So now it has given me a snap to the tangent. Now, if I see this, it's a very seamless line. That's where it is. That's why it's a tangent, that it's going to meet at the circle at a certain point, and it's going to give me a seamless geometry. That is tangent snapping. So if I want to draw a line, let's say here, now it's given me here that if I make a geometry here, it's going to be a tangent to the circle. That is tangent snap. Nearest is the nearest point. So any point it is give me that is nearest to the line. So this is actually showing me that if I start from anywhere on this green selection, that means that my line will be at the joining the line already there. So this is the nearest point. It's going to always give me where my geometry is going to meet this line. Apparent sections will not do that. Parallel will not do that for now. So this is object snap. Basically, you don't need to keep everything on. What I like to do is just keep the endpoints, midpoints. You can remove this insertion also we don't need tangents nearby. Perpendicular, midpoints, and endpoints, and maybe nearest. These are the points, these are the O snaps that we are going to use regularly. If we keep everything on, it's going to get very confusing because, so let's say I have everything on and I want to make a line to which is perpendicular. It's going to give me all the possible options where I'll snap to, it will snap to the nearest, it will snap to the geometric center. We don't want that. We want it to be clean. So that's why we will generally keep all this off and we will toggle between them wherever and whenever needed. So we'll keep nearest, perpendicular, midpoint, and endpoints on. So that was your orthographic snapping and your object snapping. So first up is move command. To activate it, it's M on your keyboard. It's given me move. M, enter. Now it's going to tell you to select the geometry or the object you want to move. So let's say I want to move this object. I'll select it, press enter or tab, and then I can move it. I can move it up, down, wherever I want. So since now my orthographic snapping is not on, it's going to tell me I can move it anywhere. If I have my orthographic snap on, that is F8, it will give me either in the straight line, either x-axis or y-axis. So let's say I want to move it here, and I want to move it here. If I want to specify a distance, I can just select the object, hit enter, select the point which I want to move it from, let's say this, and then I can type in my dimension. So 2000 mm, it's gone very far. I'll just check my units. Let's say M, enter. I'll say 100. Am I drawing it too small? Wait a second. 100. Okay, so this is my layer properties. These little icons are my main. So this is adding a new layer. This is freezing a new layer. I'll talk about this later. Delete layer and set to current layer. So the one we want is to add a layer. I'll click here. Now it's going to add a layer. Let's say I want it as thick line. I'll add another layer. I can say a medium line. I'll add another layer and call it, let's say, thin line. Now, what are these? So this is just, okay. So this is on and off a layer. You can switch it on or off. We can't turn off the default layer. You can this will show the layer or not show the layer. This is freeze. I'll talk about this later. Lock is where it's going to show you a locked layer, but you will not be able to select a geometry in the locked layer. So let's say you have a reference plan and you want to draw on top of it. You can lock the reference plan so that you can see the plan, but you don't want any of the geometries to be selected. You can just lock it. You will be able to see it and use it as a reference. This is the plot setting. So this is going to give you if you want to plot it or not. Then color. You can assign the colors to this layer. So let's say I assign a red layer to my thick. I'll do a blue to my medium, and I'll do a gray to my thin layer. This is line type. This is these are all continuous. We can change the line types. So if let's say I want to change this, I'll go to continue. I'll say load. Now it's going to give me all this kind of options for the type of line I want. So let's say I want, if you want a dash dot line, dot dot line, dash dot line, dash dash line. So these are all the options. So let's say I will use let's use this dash dot line. I'll say okay. So I don't want my thick to be I'll just say another layer. I say dotted. I can go here. I'll say load. And let's do it as dash dot. Okay. Okay. Now it's assigned that line to this. Line weights. These are basically the line weights you want to assign. This is the line weight that will show up in once you print your drawing. So let's say we want our thick lines. That's going to be our wall. So we can have it as 0.04. Okay. The rest we'll give later. We don't need to worry about the transparency and description. So we have now assigned properties to our layers. Let's close it and let's see how it works. So now to activate a layer, I'll go here. I'll say that I want to draw on my thick line. I'll select the thick line. Now it's given me that my line has been selected. And let's say I want to draw a line. Now it's going to give me a red line because we have assigned that color. We have assigned that color to that line. So any line we make under this layer is going to be a red line, and the width is going to be 0.4. We have assigned that we are going to see in the once we plot. So we'll get into that later. For our dotted now. For our dotted, it's selected that it's a red line. I'll make a line. Now you see that it's not showing me the dots. This is because of the scale factor. Now if it doesn't show, I'll select the line. I'll go to PR, enter. That is properties. And now it's going to pop up here. It's going to pop up the properties of this line. Now you see that the line type is scaled to 1. So if I say it as 20, and I say it still doesn't show, let's say 100. So see, now it's increased. Sometimes this will happen because it doesn't calculate the scale factor of the dotted lines you have. So you may have to check what line way or line type it is. Oh, did it not assign the property? So it's still showing continuous. Oh, okay. Now it's assigned to the dash dot. Sorry. So if I now draw a line, by layer, 200. Now you see, now it's made my line dotted. Let's say 400 scale factor. You can change the scale factor to the desired size of the dash dot you want. So this is how you can change. If I say it more, let's say 800, going to scale it to that much, and now it's going to be visible. Then if you want to change this to the medium, you'll have to select the geometry. You go to layers, you just go to medium, and now it's going to put that line into the medium layer. Again, it's gone back to dotted, because if you don't escape it and if you don't change it from here, it's going to go back to the previous layer that you have already selected. So let's say now I want to go to medium. I'll say medium, and I'll start drawing in my medium layer. Similarly, if I change it to thin and I start drawing, it's going to go in the thin layer. These are your layer properties. Now locking a layer. So let's say I want to lock my thick line layer. I can access it from here as well. So I can say on and off. So anything that is in the thick line, it's going to on and off. It's in the dotted line. So that's why it's going to, let's change the dotted color as well, so it doesn't confuse. We will make it blue. So now if I go here and I on and off my thick line, anything that is in that layer, it will on and off. So it will show me or not show me. If I want to lock it, I can just go to this lock and lock it. Now you see, I'm able to select the geometry, but if I try to move it, if I try to any command it won't get selected. So it's going to lock that line or that layer to the position it is in. I will not be able to change it. Freezing is freeze or thaw in all. So it's going to freeze it. That means you'll not be able to see it as well. And you're not going to be able to change it as well. So that is freezing. If I again on and off it, it's going to show me. So freezing, the difference between freezing and locking is we'll get into it later, because freeze and lock, when you freeze a layer, you will not be able to, you can assign it to different plots as well. So it will help you in once you're plotting. If you have a layer on and off, what will happen is it will show up in the plots, So when you're trying to print, but you have a layer that is on and off, it will actually show up. But in case of freeze, you can freeze it that it doesn't show up in your plots as well. So in your viewport, you will not be able to see it. Once we get there, you will get accustomed to the where to use freeze and where to use on and off. Don't confuse yourself now. We'll get to it. Then we have match layer. So we'll get into that later as well. That's for your generic layer. So that's all for layers. For all the rest of the things, we'll get onto it once we start making sheets. Then you will know where and when to use freeze and when to use your line weights, how you can set up that for your plotting styles and everything. We'll get into that on the later stages.